Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. This week we have Rob Bob with us. First off, we have Brain Grow.
Welcome, everybody.
We have ECSG.
Hi, everybody.
We have Mr. Green Jeans.
Yo, hey everybody. Thanks for joining us.
We got Old Park Grows.
Hey there. Hope everybody's having a groovy day, and glad you're stopping by the podcast and looking forward to having a good time tonight.
And we got Rob Bob, all the way from Australia. He's in the future.
Yeah, Friday already.
So he's the second Australian guest we've had a chance to get on the show, so we're super excited. And for those of you who don't know, Rob Bob has one of, if not probably the most successful YouTube channel on about aquaponics. He has a plethora of really great videos, covers a really wide range of crops, and we're super happy to have him on the show today. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your channel?
Cool. Well, the channel originally started off as a way for me to stay sane. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and we home educate our kids for some reason. So yeah, I had to stay busy. Started doing garden videos for YouTube, and just naturally progressed onto aquaponics. And I read a story about a guy throwing his rod out the back door, fishing for barra in his backyard. So sea bass. Yeah, so I pretty much all took on aquaponics from there and just incorporated it into the YouTube channel, and the rest is history. So that's pretty much all it. And yeah, I'm just a stay-at-home dad, so I get to hang around social media fair bit and answer questions pretty much all daily on newbies coming into aquaponics, always wanting to know how to set up a new system and whatnot. So I'm actually working on a new series now, trying to start from what is aquaponics all the way through for the veggie side of thing, of course, because any growing of cannabis here in Australia is highly regulated. So there we go.
But a lot of the techniques we talk about, and a lot of methods that you can use for tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers work really, really awesome for the stuff that we're allowed to grow here in the States. So they're all what works for one works for the other, and especially in terms of silica. A little bit of silica makes a night and day difference for squash and cucumbers and things like that. Why don't you tell a little bit of maybe some of the more interesting things that you've learned along your journey with your channel and doing your aquaponic stuff?
Well, the first thing I've learned is don't take forums for gospel. When designing systems, and just the best thing I could pretty much all say that I learned is source information from everywhere, from blogs, from forums, from YouTube, and then try and nut it out yourself. Just on the basic information on like how to start up a system and run it. I suppose not going big straight out of the gate would be another lesson I've learned. Not so much myself, but watching other people set up these heroic systems, we'll call them. Throwing 100 fish into a 1,000 litre or 250 gallon IBC, and throwing a grow bed off to the side, and then complain and whinge to everyone because all their fish are dying at about the 3-4 month mark as they put on a bit of biomass. I've fielded a lot of questions along those lines over the last couple of years. Being patient as well, learning just to set it up and just watch it and observe it and see how it goes through the cycles of the seasons, observing how your plants grow, best positions for setting up beds. Yeah, I'm probably just rabbiting on now.
No, that's cool. Is there any in particular any weird problems you've run into that you maybe learned a lot from viewers on your show? As far as solutions?
None that jump out. The biggest issue I've had with my system here would have to be solids, mainly because I overstocked the grow beds for the amount of fish we had for a time there, and I fell crook for a little while, and I wasn't able to clean out the radial flow filter. Ended up with a bit of a solids build up in all the beds, actually, a couple in particular. And they just threw the chemistry out of whack and ended up with a pH spike and potentially a big nitrite spike. But I suppose, yeah, not bit of a hard one. There's so much shopping around for parts. Like for you guys out there who want to do things DIY, I know you can buy off the shelf kits and things like that. But the amount of money I've seen people pour into aquaponics, just buying without thinking, not shopping around and looking online. Here in Australia, we've got some awesome plumbing supply places that, you know, you're saving 30 to 50% what you can get from the corner big box hardware store we have here. Yeah, so.
I have a question. I hang out at Ouroboros Farms, which Ken runs up here in Half Moon Bay in California. And I've also seen a facility that Steve had been working on when I first met him a couple of years ago down in San Diego. And something I noticed in both facilities, and I want to know if it's the same down in Australia, you know, with the Coriolis effect, as I noticed that the fish always swim this way around the tanks up here. Down in Australia, do they swim the other way?
They swim against the current, mate. They swim against the current. I've noticed.
That's pretty my only question about the aquaponics down there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too good about talking about myself, folks, but I'm pretty good at fielding questions and things like that. So
I was going to say it's great that you brought up that you're going to a supplier. That's what we discuss it on the show, and I teach that too. Like to go to an agricultural supply to get your, you know, anything you need to use, to go to a plumbing supply to get your plumbing. Don't go to the big box store. That's great advice right there. I love that.
Well, the small guys here are floundering as much as they are over there. And 9 times out of 10, you can actually speak to someone who's had some experience with, especially pumps. Like you walk into our big B store here in Australia, and you ask them about flow rates and head heights and all that sort of thing. They just stare at you and point to the box. I mean, yeah, I suppose you guys get the same with Lowe's and Walmart and all the big ones over there. At least with an ag store, they've got, you know, there's someone there who's worked in irrigation or is talking to the reps one-on-one, finding the latest products and the like. So
right. Well, not only that, it's a real good idea to do the research up front, so you know what you're talking about when you go to the ag supplier. Because I mean, when it comes to hydroponics or aquaponics, you call up the big agricultural universities and they don't have a clue what you're talking about. So yeah, you're right with the irrigation. You working with an irrigation specialist, or there's another company you could go to for wholesale, an irrigation company that will even help you further than plumbing, because they'll have actual fittings and adapt things that you adapt plumbing to irrigation, and how to run irrigation. Systems.
Yeah, because it's frustrating trying to run from, say, the poly down to the PVC and trying to get adapters to fit and all that. You walk into the store here and you're playing Lego for a couple of hours, walking between aisles, because of course one's up one end and one's up the other end. So
been there.
Yeah.
Been there. 3 hours in the plumbing department.
The other thing is
build up my cart, then dump stuff back out of my cart because I found something different, and then stand there for another hour. And yeah, I've been there.
Well, the other thing is too, like there's stuff, our stores only have a certain range. Like they're looking at 45s, 90s Ts, and that. I walked into our local plumbing supplier, and I said, I want to split the flow in a T, and he goes, oh, okay. So do you want equal pressure both sides? Yeah, not a problem. He goes, oh, they sell PVC wire. So, you go into a big box store here and you've got no idea what's available. So,
no, luckily our big box stores has all that pretty much, but so we're a little bit luckier than you are in that respect. But they do have the 90s and the 25s and all that stuff like that. But but still, plumbing supply is the best way because you can buy a box.
Yeah.
When you buy a box of 90s, it's a lot cheaper than buying them one at a time out of the bin. Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Sorry, trying to make sure everybody gets their links here.
So we having any questions from chat yet?
Yeah, Cannabis Origami says, Didn't you have an issue with salt buildup in one of your videos?
Yeah, I treated the system with it was roughly 5 to 6 part per million of salt, because we had a huge issue with it was basically I dropped the pH too low, the water temp was too low, or it was too hot. No, it was last summer. It was too hot, and the silver perch ended up getting lesions all over them. A couple of them really bad. I lost about four or five over about a month period, and the salt was in there as basically a health tonic for them. Looking back, hindsight, wonderful thing. I was stressing out at the time. I wasn't feeling too good, and I just dumped it straight in the system. I could have split it. I could have had the hydro running by itself, whacked a new pump on, and had the fish offline for a while. But yeah, I stuffed up. So I ended up with quite a large amount of salt running through the hydro side as well as the fish. But you know, that happens.
Yep.
But it's all down. It's all down now. It's all under 2 parts per million. So, and then with this last lot of rain, it's probably lower again.
Doesn't salt build up because of evaporation eventually in the system, or do the plants and the fish retake it back up?
Well, so certain microbial interactions actually produce sodium as well over time. Like if you just run you'll actually see this too. Soil growers that do no-till and stuff long term, they'll notice the bottom of their beds will have a higher sodium level, and it's just through the microbial processes and fungal processes going on, even if it's not from the water source. Just over time.
And I meant parts per 1,000, by the way, not parts per million.
Yeah, it was 2 ppm would be pretty low for sodium. It's pretty hard to get water these days that are that low. So you do a lot of root crops and things on your show or your channel. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Not a lot of people do root crops. What do you mean root crops? So you do garlic and other tubers and root, you know.
Root. Oh yeah, yep. Now I gotcha. In the aquaponics, I've had garlic's been a bit of a hit and miss for me. Some of it, I'd say the first 2 crops pretty much were rotted in the bed. I don't know if that was an issue with the depth they were planted. I tried to stagger some, so they were just touching the top of the high tide mark under the clay. I had some buried further down, and I pretty much lost them all. Sweet potatoes go like banana. They just love it. A lot of vine though sent down onto the ground, and we ended up with a massive tubers in the soil next to the system. The tubers that actually grew in the system, pretty small and manky, but loads of leaves, which is what we grow a lot of sweet potatoes for. We try and beat the grasshoppers to them and the flea beetles, and try and harvest the greens for salads and that sort of thing. Potatoes, I haven't tried potatoes in the system, but I've always wanted to. I've been told that there's a couple of people who have tried the core, the coconut, just throwing them in some of the cloth bags or containers just at the high tide mark and letting it wick up. But space is a bit of a premium for me, so I haven't really had a crack at that yet. But we've got an expansion on the way soon, so I might.
Yeah, when you fail with potatoes. Go ahead, Fish.
I was just going to say with the garlic, I tried it the way you have before, like you said, where you put it into the media directly at around the high tide mark, and it didn't work. But when I tried the fabric pots with the cocoa and just let it wick up, everything from carrots to garlic bulbs and potatoes have worked just fine for me. So that's definitely one way to go. But like you're saying, it's a little bit of a space eater. So what I'd recommend, so that way you're maximizing that space, not just on the top of that fabric pot where you're planting things, cut some slits on the side of it, and you can have things growing out the sides of it as well. Then you're using that vertical space.
Yeah. It'd be sweet to throw a couple of strawberries down the side too. Because that'd be the long-term crop, and then you have the rest in the top section.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're inviting mites, though.
Yeah, as long as you make sure you don't have spider mites, you know.
Yeah.
Strawberries always have spider mites.
Yeah, I haven't had an issue with them here, but I've had other mite issues here.
Oh, yeah, I like to tell people if they're going to buy strawberries at the the hardware store or anywhere around that's got them, you're basically just paying for mites and they're throwing in the strawberries for free.
Yep. Yeah, the best way for them is to soak them. You can soak them underwater for about 2 hours, and that'll kill any mites on them. It won't kill the eggs, but it'll kill the adults at least, or at least get them to float off. The other thing you can do is lemongrass oil. Kapow is really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about a kapow dunk when you first get them?
Yeah, you could do that. There's a oh man, the bug lady that
Suzanne Wainwright Evans.
yes, her.
I got you, bro.
No,
Good job.
there's a whole story behind that and why. Yeah, anyways, there's a long story behind that. But she was saying they use a I think it was a pyrethrum dunk, but I'm not 100% sure how that would work for.
Oh yeah,
what you're
that's an old school clone thing. You would take a clone and dump it in the pyrethrum bath. Yeah, that's organic, So yeah, you could pyrethrum dunk too. I was thinking that earlier, but I always like listening to all y'all's newfangled ways to do everything. So
Water's great.
On the pyrethrum,
Like
if you're
Steve said.
growing stuff to concentrate, the pyrethrum concentrates real nasty. Just so you know.
you have to do it only for clones or for veggies.
Right.
The trick with water against spider mites is to think of it more as a mechanical action. It's not so much the soaking, about getting the eggs off, Steve, is if you swoosh the plant up and down a lot, if you literally give it a lot of agitation in the water, then you can, and you take your magnifying glass and look back at the leaves, you'll see you can knock them almost all off completely just by more mechanical agitation in the water. You know what I mean? It's I think of the water as a mechanical way of wiping the mites off.
Like you're making spider mite hash.
Yes.
And
What I do is I use the water to water the plants, man. So and I left some out the other day for a couple of days, and it's got a lot of mites in it. So there was even a protein scum on top. So I bet there's a little bit of nutrients there, right? And get this, how about the plant?
Fermented bugs. I like it.
I bet the plant starts to taste like dead mites. I bet the other mites don't like it. The other mites are going, man, there's something wrong with it.
You know about that, right? The hormones, a lot of the insects, where if they detect.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
There's actually there's a product on the market. I can't remember the name of it. There actually is a product on the market that is strictly just an isolated protein for aphids. That's like their distress signal.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of the product is. I'll think of it by the end of the show.
Excellent.
I was just going to say quickly, carrots. Carrots have grown all right in media beds for me. So is taro to a degree, the gingers, turmeric, and water chestnuts.
So what are your on that last topic? What are your go-to pest control in Australia for aquaponics?
The hose for aphids. I've got to the point with the onion aphids, the black suckers, the ones that go purple when you squeeze them. I pull the plants out and hit them with the hose and then replant them. I've tried diatomaceous earth. That's supposed to be the miracle cure for aphids. It doesn't work.
It does work for mites, though. I've had great success with mites, spider mites. Since I treated my grow room with diatomaceous earth, I've never had a spider mite since.
Okay, cool. Because we get board mites.
But thanks for bringing it up. That got me to bring up my diatomaceous earth, and we move on. So, sorry.
So do you guys have beneficial nematodes? Is that something that they sell in Australia, or probably not? Because
if they did, I would have thrown them through the soil beds by now. Yeah, no. With the aquaponics, I'm pretty much all BT based, like Dipole, Nature's Way Dipole is the only brand you can get here in Australia, of it, by the way, for us mere mortals. I've seen people use neem and the soap sprays and all the rest of it, but even spot spraying, they go to all the problem of putting newspaper under the plants and spraying. I suppose if you were desperate, I'd rather pull the plant out, spray it, and then put it back in myself.
Right.
Give it a shower.
It's a media bed. Yeah. Grasshoppers, we just got to grin and bear it. They're smashing us here at the moment. Everything has a hole in it. Every leafy green I pick for dinner comes with ventilation holes, so it goes down faster. Yeah, but I suppose aphids and grasshoppers are pretty much all the worst for us.
Oh.
Oh, and there's we do have isolated pests like the Okinawan spinach gets an magpie moth, and they can they lay cluster eggs, so you end up with they can strip a branch in a matter of days once they get a bit of size to them. I mean, everyone's got cabbage, butterflies, caterpillars, so yeah, that's about it pest wise. Oh, and rats. They only turn up every couple of years.
So you would eat the roots?
No, the rats were going all the strawberries, the peppers.
Your fruit. Okay, yeah.
They're eating your peppers? That's interesting.
So how do you usually deal with those?
Bullthorn peppers, so capsicums, just the sweet ones. With the rats, snap traps. It's tried to do the humane thing, tried to, not that you can be humane with something that destroys your crops. But as if they're the introduced species, we catch them in the humane first, and if it looks like it's the introduced species, we snap trap them. If they look like the natives, we humane trap them and move them down, because we got our own native mice that we're supposed to protect by law, so they go to the nature reserve.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feed the ones I catch to my pythons.
Yeah, well, if we still had our pythons, they'd probably have one or two as well. So
there you go, python in the greenhouse.
We've got enough eastern browns around. I'd say they'd knock off one or two. So.
Oh yeah, everything tries to kill you down there. I forgot the spiders and the snakes.
Here in California, they're so foofy. They make you kill your mice before you feed it to your python.
That's the law here in Australia as well. You got to buy them frozen.
Good golly, Miss Molly!
Really?
It's a freaking snake.
Wow.
It's a snake. Let it do a snake thing.
In saying that, I have seen rats attack snakes and damage them. So then again, that's feeding a big rat to a snake that wasn't quite ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't feed animals to stressed out reptiles because they will not eat it. And I've seen the same thing. I've seen a rat kill like a, 15, 20 pound boa. And I told my friend, I was like, he's not going to eat it right now because he's stressed out. And he left it in there and ended up killing the snake.
Wow.
Yep.
I've seen some pretty wild stuff working on the pet trade too. You know what's weird? You got certain snakes will only eat stuff if it smells like a frog. So you keep tadpoles around or a big frog around, and you just rub the mouse on the back of the frog, and then you feed it to them. And like, there's all kinds of weird tricks you have to do. What was it? The caiman lizards, they eat canned snails. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff depending on what reptile you get and how exotic you get. I love monitor lizards, or I think they call them goannas where you are. They're really, really awesome pets, super smart.
Yeah, Steve, which is the frog where if you lick it?
Oh, the Sonoran desert toad.
I had a feeling you'd actually know that. Okay, cool.
I worked in the pet trade a long time.
I went into a remand centre walkthrough before they opened it down in Waco, decades ago now. And they had some of the stuff that the prisoners used, and cane toad skins. They used to roll it up and throw it in their durries, in cigarettes, and get them off the canes, the poison. I know people who joked about licking them, stress them out, a little bit of ooze comes and they lick it and get off. But yeah, well above and beyond my level of enlightenment.
So if you ever want to read a really good book, there's an incredible book on the first guy that ever figured out that you could smoke Sonoran desert toad venom. It was like in the 50s or 60s, and he knew that somehow figured out that there was high amounts of DMT in the venom of the Sonoran desert toad, and he got a bunch of venom, did a sample, came back with lots of DMT, and he goes, well, I don't see anything here that can kill me, and there's lots of DMT, so I'm gonna just dry a bunch out and smoke it, and we'll find out what happens, without any idea if it would kill him or not or anything. And sure enough, he did it. And then they wrote this book on it, and then on a false alias. And there's an incredible, I think it's a This American Life or one of the NPR shows. They did a whole thing on it. Oh, looks like we had something on the internet happened there. We lost half the people.
The only thing I know about the frogs, not about licking them, but my girlfriend kissed a frog, and that's how I got here. I'm the prince. That's right.
Oh
What
dear.
happened there with the internet splitting? At least we got everybody back.
I was going to say the next reptile we're probably going to get is the bearded dragon. We get them here like naturally. They just turn up in the yard. But I've had friends who they reckon that they're great cockroaches. You just let a couple loose around the house during the day, and yeah, no need to spray for roaches or anything like that. They look after all of them.
The best.
Yeah,
best
I've got one for years. They're good, man. Definitely very easy to domesticate.
The best thing for ants and roaches and that kind of stuff in your garden, especially aquaponics, or if you got kids or animals around, is boric acid. Boric acid is great for that. It doesn't hurt anything except for insects. So unless you're keeping tarantulas or scorpions, you're fine. But
What about dogs? I read boric acid was bad for dogs.
they
I
have to
haven't
eat a
looked into
lot of it. Yeah.
Oh,
So we used to use it in the pet store all the time, and no problems at all.
Okay.
It's one
Yeah,
of the
because my dad makes up a sugar trap for the ants, and he uses that with the
Oh
boric.
yeah. Yeah, it's great. So what nutrients are you guys using? What do you like for pH up and pH down, and what are the different supplements that you guys use down there?
pH up just doesn't happen. We get the water coming out of the tap at over 8, so no need for that. Sorry, pH down, I mean. pH up is hydroxide. I use calcium hydroxide. I should be using more potassium and alternating the two, but I've just got so much. I got given a big bucket when I bought the system off Paul Van. So I'm still working through that, and I'll get some potassium hydroxide at some point. Other nutrients I'm using, it's probably a bit reckless, but I'm using the kelp powder for potassium. So it's got loads of other micronutrients. I don't know if there's going to be a stage where I end up overdosing on the micronutrients because I'm adding in too much. Testing is a little bit more expensive here in Australia than it is in the States. So that's we don't test for. I haven't tested yet for any deficiencies or toxic levels of elements in the system as of yet. Iron, we just use the DTPA. So I found a relatively cheap source now. So I've just been using that. Yeah, pretty straightforward. When we have had to bring the pH down, I've pretty much all used hydrochloric acid. But at the moment, I'm just using the water just straight from the tap after it's been, gassed off, of course. I'm just using that as a buffer itself, and I found that it generally gives me, if I pop in 200 to 300 litres, what's that? About 50 or 60 gallons. I pretty much it keeps the pH nice and steady for a couple of days. So, yeah, it's one good thing about having fairly high carbonates in the water.
Yeah, that's great. It makes it easier to dose. I know we use a lot of potassium silicate. It helps a lot to get a little extra silica too, especially for crops that have mold problems.
I haven't really looked into silicate much, mainly because it was in the seaweed powder, from what I read. So I just didn't bother looking at it as an individual, which is, I know, is probably a bit reckless if you want to be a purist, but
I love that though, because that's kind of my thing. I see, it's in there, and then I don't research it any. I don't mess with it. Okay, it's there. Yeah. So I like that. Somebody else says, yeah, they didn't necessarily, know.
If I was going commercial, I suppose if I was a commercial, I mean, that'd be a different story. It'd be stupid not to look into it, but
right. Then you got a responsibility.
Yeah, but just for feeding, just for kicks and feeding the family and friends. Yeah, they can do it without a bit of silicate if they need it. Yeah.
And the fish didn't die.
Yeah, the fish are going.
The fish didn't die, so right. Isn't that the first rule of aquaponics? If the fish don't die, you're probably okay.
Probably. I love the probably bit.
Another great source is a rice husk biochar is really high in silica as well can be put in, in like a nylon bag and put into your sump, depending on the size of your system.
Cool. I'm gonna have to. I didn't grab a pencil and pen. I'm gonna have to open something up and write this down.
I would imagine that would come in powder form. You could probably even dose that in small amounts.
Cool.
Yeah, no, you can get that in quite a few different forms. So what other questions do you guys have for Rob?
I got one I just came up with all of a sudden because we're always about ferments and lactobacillus. So, Rob, are you doing anything with ferments or lactobacillus?
In the system, no, but I do ferment.
Oh, you're not doing a dual root zone, though, are you? Are you?
No.
He
I'm
does his own
sorry I
thing.
got here late. So,
Yeah, no, it's all good. I haven't. Eventually, I'll give everything a crack. I always wanted to start out doing basically the pouches in a tray, flooding with a little bit of a clay ball reservoir just to keep the mozzies out and all that sort of thing, and algae down. But I just never got around to it. Space has just been an issue.
So I saw you do a lot of vermiculture on your channel. Do you want to talk to people a little bit about that and what kind of worms you're raising and what you're...
None at the moment. We're renovating, and about a year and a half ago, we thought we were going to start off straight away, and other things, family issues and health matters popped up. So I dismantled the worm farm and put them all out in the garden beds. So I suppose we still are farming, and all our garden beds are self-watering wicking beds. So they've all got a reservoir level down the bottom, wicks up. You guys will probably know, and you've got a nice organic, dense growing medium. I put all the compost worms out into the patch, and I top dress fairly heavily with manures, compost, and aged manures, compost, and mulch, and that keeps the compost worms ticking over. And we've also had we bought red regulars primarily, so we were told, but I know there's some blues in there as well. We've got them in the yard now, so whenever I put down a compost cage, after the heating process is finished off and it's starting to age a bit, you pull out a handful and compost, and you're bound to get half a dozen to a dozen worms in there. So I really do like the idea of including them as a tea with aquaponics. It's just not something I've really done consciously. I've thrown mesh bags of castings in the sump tank when I first started out and that sort of thing, but I just never really kept up with it. So
yeah, a little bit in your media bed when you're first starting can be great for seeding your microbes, especially nitrifying bacteria. They're loaded in nitrifying bacteria, and it can be a great free source of seed colony.
Yeah, well, that's probably why I kicked off so well, because when we started off, everyone throws a handful of worms in. So I just did castings, worms a lot, just into each bed. So they freaking well exploded too. It was amazing how fast they kicked off in the system. It must be all the bacteria, I suppose.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the more of those bacteria you can seed in the beginning, the better off your system will be. I know we often talk, I don't know if you guys there's a product called Mammoth P. I know they're trying to get it established in Australia if they haven't already. And it's a beneficial soil microbe that breaks down phosphorus, and it's used by cannabis growers and by vegetable growers, and it is 100% fish safe. And man, with just that, it gives you almost all the phosphorus you need out of your system just from the fish waste. It unlocks that other 15 to 20% that's locked up still, and does it completely organically, and it's fish safe.
So
and when we're talking about some safe stuff, I wanted to say something about just one last thing about DE. With when you're using aquaponics or even any kind of organic culture where you have live beneficial insects or worms, you can't use DE, because DE will kill. The whole purpose is it scratches the skeleton and they dehydrate and die, and then the eggs hatch, and it does the same thing to the babies. So DE is only good if you're not going to have beneficial bugs.
DE is actually fine for worms because they can actually use it as a grit to grind up their food.
Well, see, but you have to let
it doesn't damage them. It doesn't damage them on the outside, because once the DE comes into contact with water, it's basically disarmed.
Well, it's a fossil shell. It's a piece of sharp piece of material, and it scratches them is how it kills the bugs.
I'll tell you.
I would say And the thing with worms, what I read, well, let me just address the worms and then, and see if Brain wants to come back. But when my research on what it does with worms is if you mix your medium up with DE in it, it'll kill the worms. If you let the worms, if you address it, put it on the top and let the worms work it into the soil, I think is what you
any research I've ever done when it comes to DE says that it's safe for worms to even top dress your worm bin with it to keep any kind of other insects out.
Yeah, top dress. That's what I'm saying. By top dressing, then you allow the worms to work it into the medium. If you were to stir it all up in the medium and then they were crawling through it, it would kill them. That's what I was trying to say. I mean, I'll look it up now that you said that, because I'll find the material that I
don't think even Tad Hussey, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, was talking about as soon as the diatomaceous earth comes into contact with water, it's basically no good as a mechanical insecticide anymore.
Well, so the other bit is, according to Susan Ann Wright, it does fuck all for any insects in large scale testing.
Dry. It does work for some insects, I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, I can tell you it works for spider mites myself. For sure.
It works for slugs really well, and that's about it.
It works if you can keep the area dry, which, I mean, how many growers are trying to keep it completely dry?
It's the size of the thing, and the way it works on an insect is because their whole, if they even get a couple of slices on their abdomen, they lose a tremendous amount of water, and they're small.
They dehydrate.
Whereas a worm is a completely different thing. And it's also much larger. Even if it did slice up the
thoracic breathers, and that messes with the thoracic breathing system.
Yeah. That's exactly how it kills insects. That's right. And it's got to be really dry. It's true, like Brain said, it has to be dry. And it has basically, you just dust it on top the surface of the soil. I don't know what Roger's saying may be true, that if it's mixed into the soil a lot, like a whole bunch of it, because you can buy bags of it, it's for use for pools and everything.
Yep.
No.
It's great for grit.
Do not use pool grade. That's toxic.
Well, pool grade is only toxic because it's a flour, or
right.
It's super light.
You have to get
it in, yes.
But let's just inform everybody correctly right now. No, you have to use food grade Codex diatomaceous earth. It actually says that. See, yep.
That's right. I wasn't saying pool stuff.
It's got to be food grade diatomaceous earth Codex. It says it's called diatomaceous earth food grade Codex. CODEX.
The difference between food grade and pool grade is pool grade can include lighter molecule, whereas the food grade is molecules above a certain weight, so it's not as much of a dust and a breathing hazard. That's the only difference. So you can actually use the lighter one. So pool grade will actually work better as an insecticide.
That's good to know. Thank you, sir.
You just have to be mindful.
But you're putting yourself at risk for your own respiratory system. If you inhale that stuff, it's not good for your respiratory system. So do not use. I don't care. I'll fight this one. Do not use commercial pool grade diatomaceous earth, or unless you want to, get ill. When you're old, you'll wish you hadn't.
Bob, you actually have a really cool formula for worm food, which is one of the cooler videos that I've taken away from you on your channel. Do you want to touch a little bit about that? Because I thought that was awesome.
Which one was that? The dry one?
Yeah, that you had like the different amounts.
I cop flat from that from worm growers all the time. They reckon it's overkill and all the rest. Basically, what it was a whole heap of stuff. I was cleaning out the pantry. And there's always that corner of the pantry you never go to, and there was stale oats and flours, and I think there was some rice in there and some other bits and pieces. And we just ground it up, and I used it as a dust over the top of the beds, and I think I sprayed it with water and molasses. And I just noticed I do my normal slushy, which is another thing most pro worm guys don't like me doing. But they were just smashing through that before they were even touching the green stuff. They just absolutely loved it, and I noticed a huge amount of cocoons around that area not long after feeding it, probably about 2 to 3 weeks after feeding it. So I just put anecdotal, of course. They just preferred that a lot better than the green stuff. So, and by the way, anyone watching who's seen my other green slushy clip, it's a lot of people reckon that it makes the bins very moist. I run a dry worm bin. I know a lot of people like to spray theirs and run water through it and all the rest. All my bins are dry, so the only moisture that comes in is in the form of the vegetables. So I end up with a dry, flaky layer on top, except for where I'm feeding. So not that anyone's probably watching it give a rat's, but yeah, thought I'd just mention that.
Do you ever take your fish solids and put them in there as well?
No, because I had far too many garden beds here. I couldn't even make enough compost or afford to buy the fertilizer to go in them. They say, what is it, go big or go home? I went far too big, so I had to bugger off very quickly. All my solids from the radial flow, I was alternating them around specific beds in the patch that were nitrogen hungry. So that was pretty much where they were going. In the future, though, I'll be looking at doing a digester. So I was put off that idea to begin with. I misinterpreted something Paul Van said when he came around here one day. So now I've learned a little bit more about the digesters. I'm looking at getting another one of them in the system here. So yeah, and that'll be reintroduced back into the system rather than used external.
I personally think that doing offline remineralization gives you better, more controllable results than with the bioreactors. The bioreactors do work and they're great, but you have less control. And that's especially when we're growing higher dollar crops. We really want to have that higher level of control. And we've done a lot of work with that. And yeah.
Well, I'm only just touching on that now with Ryan Chatterson's course. I'm only just up to that one. I've been stalled on it for about a month now. 2 months now, actually. I haven't gone any further. Just other stuff keeps popping up, but yeah, that's the bit I'm looking at now and there, because I've seen a lot of stuff online, and no offense to everyone online, but there's so much yes and no and all the rest of it. It's hard to know what to listen to. So what Paul said was just, he's an amazing guy. His head's just full of knowledge. He'd come camp out the back and he'd be chatting for 3-4 hours, and I'd probably retain about 5% of what he actually went through. He's very analytical, very scientific, very detailed, and it was a bit too much for me to comprehend. So probably should have recorded it all. Sorry, the dog wants me to throw stuff.
That's all right. Last week, Frenchie's dog was vying for his attention as well. So
she's addicted. She's addicted. She's a rescue dog, and the only way they gave her attention was to throw the ball for her repetitively all day. She needs one of those things where you pop the ball in and it shoots it out for her.
So, what other strange or exotic or maybe crops that you've seen that you've grown that other people haven't grown?
Water chestnuts to me just make, if you're in a warm climate and you like the crunchy. I don't know if you've had Asian food. There's in a lot of Thai and Chinese. They go phenomenally well. They can become a weed in the system because all you need is the smallest corm not to be harvested, and they'll come up year after year. No more Lizzie. The other one would have to be gingers. I've seen Crackey's hydroponic ginger clip a couple of times now. And once we get a bit of property, I'm actually going to look at running a hydroponic ginger dedicated commercial bed just to see how that'll go. There's a lot of the people I know around here, I've asked at a few different restaurants, they still buy their ginger from wholesalers, except for one that gets all their stuff grown by family members. So I'm thinking that might be a little niche market for us to break into once we get this new hoop house sorted out.
Have you, did I hear earlier that you do some saltwater aquaponics?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Okay, I misunderstood something earlier.
No, I had high salt levels to help out some fish.
Oh, okay, that's where that came from. Okay, because I've got this dream of having a saltwater aquaponic system, and I want to grow pistachios.
Sweet.
Yeah, if it works, it'd be sweet. Yeah.
A boy can dream.
Yeah.
Well, it's an ebb and flow, basically. They grow in a tidal basin. They're a shrubbery, basically. They grow in a tidal basin. So it's an ebb and flow thing. If you can make an aquaponic, saltwater aquaponics and it's in saltwater because they originally came of the Mediterranean, and now they're off the coast of California, primarily for the United States, but they came from the Mediterranean originally. When I lived in Turkey as a child, you could go down to the docks and buy a whole bag, like a brown bag you'd put a beer can in, and for like $0.25, and get right fresh out of the Mediterranean tidal basins. So I've always had a passion for that. So I just wondered, you being down, well, you probably don't like down under, do you? Because you feel like you're on top of the world, and we're under, don't you?
It's almost saltwater down there. He's halfway. Roger, there's some places where there's halfway to saltwater in the world. Lakes where it's very hard. Some of the big
Brackish.
Yeah.
Malawi. Well, I live in an area where we've got an ocean, and then we've got brackish. No, I live near a lake where you can take a canal down the lake to brackish water, and then go from brackish water right to the ocean. So yeah,
my impression
I live there, buddy. I live there.
It's pretty. My impression of Australia is that the water is real hard and real salty down there, right? Your water supply, Rob? Yeah or no?
No, it's all comes from the sky, just like the rest of the world.
Oh,
yeah. Water comes from the mountain peaks. It snows in the winter, and the water and the snow melts off the mountain and fills the rivers that run downhill and fill everything. That's how we get water. Is it comes off the. That's why global warming is such an issue. But we're not going sideways into global warming. But
yeah, it doesn't snow where he is.
No, we're in the subtropics, so we've just our wet season's almost over. We had a foot of rain last week almost, so over 2 or 3 days.
What's the hardness of your water? How many parts per million?
Out of the tap, I don't know. I haven't tested straight from the tap, but the pH is coming out at roughly around about 8.3. But it depends on what they're treating the water for too. So,
yeah. You don't use the tap water. You use collected rainwater, or
it's all tap here.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. The houses there's lead paint on the gutters, lead paint on the roof. So once the house is renovated, that's something that's going to be addressed, and we're going to have proper water tanks put in, which will be used just for aquaponics.
Cool.
Now, is this a city, a government city type water, or a well?
Oh no, it's all we're on. There's 2 dams that feed Brisbane. There's Somerset Dam and Wivenhoe.
Okay, yeah, okay, city water.
So it's all dam. I think we can put bores in our backyard still. Oh, there's so many different bloody regulations. A lot of the people I know who do have bores around this area, it is very hard water. So yeah, I'm
lucky. I've got a well at 7 to 7.2, about 200 parts per million. So I got a great well.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. I mean, you can't stop stuff from growing here. You can't. If you kill everything, something else will grow there like crazy, like tomorrow in 2 weeks.
So I saw you had a cool video on growing pineapples in aquaponics. So how long does it take to get a pineapple?
That wasn't me. No. That will be soon. I've got a couple of heads drying out in the kitchen, and I've got a couple of suckers, and I've got a mutant 3-headed or 2 or 3-headed sucker that I've.
Why don't you tell us how to do that, Rob?
What, plant a pineapple?
Yeah. Well, so like you say, you're suckers and like almost like you're cloning a pineapple or something.
Well, they're a bromeliad. So you get your fruit. You break your fruit off, and then through the base of the bromeliad, you'll get little babies shoot out. So those guys there, you can either leave on and you'll get a smaller pineapple the next year, or you can break them off and plant them in the ground. There's conjecture online as to which grows the biggest pineapple. So I'm not going into that debate. But generally, you just get your pineapple, grab the top, twist it off. Actually, I'll go grab one back in the tick.
Sure.
That's what I was going for. I'm cloning pineapples out here. I was like, let me see.
All right, it's going to be pina colada time.
Yeah, because pineapple's good. Now, I think we all can agree pineapple's pretty good. There we go.
This is one I harvested a couple of weeks back. It's just been sitting on the bench, and that's pretty much all the section that came out of the pineapple there. And just get them a decent angle.
Yeah.
You just twist it out. People cut it off and all sorts of
Just
malarkey.
break it out.
Twist it out. And then down the bottom here, all you need to do is just pull these off like an artichoke. And I should have brought the other one out so I didn't have to do it all on this one. So I've already done the other one.
Demonstration live.
Hey, yeah. A+.
This is awesome.
And then this was supposed to be a video for my channel, folks. But I won't go too
We stole
far.
it.
Yeah.
We hijacked it.
It's all good. I don't know if you can make them out, but there's little root nodes down in there, and that's where the roots come from. So basically, I like to let mine dry out so they don't rot in the wet soil. And you just
Like a
plant
potato.
that.
Like a potato.
Yep, I'd probably pull out another 4 or 5 rows of these just to give me a little bit of depth into the soil, but I'll save that for the clip. And then just pop it in the soil and away she goes. So that's pretty much all it. They don't have a really massive root system though. So, I mean, these things can grow anywhere up to about, probably about 5 to 6 foot wide once they get going. So they're not something that's probably good for aquaponics in that respect. They might be good in a bucket off to the side. But yeah, they basically will fall over. So yeah, that's the other thing with a media bed. They may not be too stable. There you go.
Start a SIPS pineapple.
Man,
Cloning a pineapple. Thank you very much, my friend. That was excellent.
Excellent. Thank you.
Only on Growing with Fishes podcast you get to learn how to clone a pineapple. I'm telling you.
Thanks,
Well,
Rob.
did you know you can also get
Oh,
some,
Rob's.
also
Yeah,
have
why don't
seed?
you tell us? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Some pineapple will also have seed. The eyes, where the little flowers come out as they're developing, all those little eyes are a little flower, a little purple flower on ours. And so GMO, crossbreeding, conspiracy crap. But originally they used to have little seeds behind them, little black seeds. If you Google or YouTube search growing pineapple seeds, a few will come up. It can be done, but this way is just so much faster.
Well,
like
you don't think that's
18
just-
months to 2 year turnaround for us.
You don't think that's just common bolting like other vegetables when it shoots up the shoots and has seeds? Like,
Well, no, it's a bromeliad. It's the only
It's a
edible
brom- yeah.
bromeliad. Yeah, it's totally different type of plant.
okay, so it doesn't bolt then. Okay.
No,
so
no.
different.
Actually,
Okay.
not.
It sounds
not-
like bolting what you're talking about though, where shoots come up and produce seeds. That's how you get seeds for.
No, on the outside. So on your pineapple itself, you've got the little sections. Out of those little sections on the fruit itself, you'll have a little flower come out of that. That's what happens when they're really small on a bush. I could probably,
Okay. You're talking. I mean, okay.
if I knew how to use Hangout, I could show you. But yeah, they have a little purple. Owls have a little purple flower. Dad's had a blue flower. But behind them, if they get pollinated, legend says you'll end up with a seed behind that section. So
Legend. Yeah, I like legend. Yeah, that's pretty good. Legend has it.
So on that note, what varieties of greens do you grow there in the tropics and warmer weather? It'd be great for people to know they're trying to grow warmer weather here in the States.
yep. Can I just have a 5 second, guys?
Sure.
I just,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, he already said water chestnut, so that's cool. That makes me interested because I'm in Carolina, so it's humid and tropical as hell. Pretty much here. Especially towards the closer to the ocean you get. But so that was kind of interesting to find out that he likes that. And now pineapples, I wasn't sure that we'd be able to grow them here, but I'm kind of interested in that. That was neat.
my grandparents grew them down in Sydney, but then again they were on Collaroy Plateau, so they didn't get the frost. But they grew them down in Sydney, which is a classed as subtropical, but it's more warm temperate.
So do you feel like you can't grow in an area where you get frost? You can't grow pineapple?
Oh, pineapple can't.
No,
do
they're
frost,
tropical.
no.
They're a tropical.
No, but even in the there's not a dormant time of the year where there could
Nope.
be. No.
It's a bromeliad.
Okay.
Once it burns, it burns. Yeah.
So you could maybe do it in a greenhouse then, because you would be able to keep the greenhouse you know,
Yeah.
warm enough and wet enough,
I think
right?
Robert Bigelow, he's growing them in his greenhouse.
Yeah, so maybe I could try. I bet you they bring what kind of bug and pests, extra pests and bugs would a pineapple bring though, being a sweet fruit?
Nothing. The
Nothing.
bromeliad, nothing really touches them.
Really?
Nothing. Yep.
Yep.
Well, so that sounds like the perfect thing to
They're more
grow.
a danger. They're more a danger to you than you are to them, mate. These guys are spiky buggers, and you get some of them. They've got like a little sawtooth on the leaves as well. So
You cut
Yeah.
yourself, in other words.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like growing an agave in your grow bed, which would also be about as unpleasant.
Yeah, cactus. Yeah, I was just thinking cactus, and you say agave. Yeah, so, which is like a saw-shaped cactus, isn't it?
Yep. So what type of greens and what varieties of greens are you growing there in the warmer climate?
Right at the moment, I've got bok choy, wombok, I've got some Okinawan spinach that are struggling because of the magpie moth. I was trying to think what's in the beds. Oh, Brazilian spinach. The Brazilian spinach just loves this climate. So does the Okinawan spinach. Warrigal greens do all right. They're a bit hit and miss, I found, in the aquaponics. Like in the soil, they've turned into a weed in the backyard. But aquaponics, I've had a few issues with them. I had really good success with the perpetual chard, perpetual spinach. It just last year I had was it last year? The year before, I had a massive plant. We just harvested kilo upon kilo green from that. Sweet potatoes are a good one if you like them. Trying to think. Oh, Malabar spinach. The climbing Malabar spinach. It just went ballistic last season. Mites ended up getting that. But they're our main ones. Like I could live off the Warrigal greens. The Okinawan spinach I really love. It's got this really nice, unique flavour. It's almost like a cross between carrot and lettuce. So I really love that one. And wombok, I could eat wombok every day if we could keep the grasshoppers and the cabbage butterflies off them. But lettuce, we've had a couple of varieties go really well for us. One is called Rabbity Lettuce. It's a warm climate. It's a cos, or what do you guys call it, romaine family.
Romaine works here too.
And the other one is a coral lettuce. It's just something Mum and Dad grew in their garden for about 4 or 5 years. And it just continually self-sowed. And I ended up, once I got some seed here, I just kept selecting the last large plant that did well to go to seed. And I just tried to select a variety the strain that would go to seed the slowest in our temperatures.
Oh, yeah.
Even in winter, it just bolts. Yeah, because I mean, our winter days can get down to 20s. Like we might have a week. Oh, sorry, that's centigrade.
No worries.
Yep,
That's okay. 20, yeah.
Centigrade. You do real temperatures.
Some of us do here. Yes.
All this, yeah. Yeah, so it gets down to the low
It's like
20s.
67 or 68 degrees for all you people out there.
Yeah, 68. Thank you, Phone. So very rarely, like, I mean, we have 2 or 3 mornings. Oh, actually, I'll be generous. We'll have like 7 to 10 mornings where it gets below freezing every winter for 2 or 3 hours. So we really don't have a winter. So
That's kind of like, it sounds like you got a lot of what you grow is what we can grow here where I live, you know, and I've got a hydroponic greenhouse, and I'm trying to go into aquaponics, but you know, I'm all by myself and life's a bitch. But so you don't get nearly as much as you want to get done in a time frame you'd like to get it done in. But it sounds like you grow, so anything that you say you could grow, it sounds like I could grow. And since I have a greenhouse, I think I could grow the pineapple because I could keep it warmer, at least to the tolerant level in the winter. Because I've got
Sounds like a challenge.
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
two
why
of you should have a grow off.
Now I can go to the store and buy a pineapple and clone it, and we'll see. You know, we'll see.
He's trying to tell you he wants to throw down and have a grow off. He's challenging you.
No, I'm not having a grow off against anybody. I just think that what
No,
Rob's growing in his land. Where do you live, by the way? I missed you at the beginning. Where do you live?
Ipswich, southeast Queensland, Australia. Our city's a bit of a joke.
Queensland.
We're
Okay.
a bit of a
Right.
bogan city, apparently, or a bit
Yeah,
of a redneck.
I was pretty certain it was Australia. You know,
Yeah.
I was pretty certain. But
Just a little bit of pointer with the pineapple. What they're doing here in Australia is they're coring the center out. The pineapple growers are coring the center out of the head, so you can't grow them. That's another. I don't know if it's an urban legend or not, but it's something they do over here because it takes the heart out. This bit here that starts the roots off. So I've never seen one. What they do mainly is they just chop the top off because it's easier to pack without the head. So just thought I mentioned that.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Do you guys have sweet sop or sugar sop? I'm trying to remember the name.
Sour sop.
Anona.
Anuna is the Spanish name for the sweet sop, and then the sour sop. I think you guys know it as sour sop.
Both are Muricata and
Okay. So you mean custard apple?
Yeah, custard apple or
yeah, that one.
And the sour sop. Yeah, custard. We've got friends who've got custard apples locally. I don't have any here. Sour sop we were told to get because it was another new miracle fruit that was going to cure us of everything. But we never bothered getting one. We've pretty much all the only fruit trees we have here on our place are three different types of bananas, mulberry tree, strawberry guava that I still haven't killed, figs, and
figs.
lime tree, citrus. Yeah.
Figs, another superfood.
yeah, those guavas can be finicky, eh?
Oh, ours when we bought ours, intending to put it in the ground when we renovated, and it just has been in a root pouch ever since. Like it's surviving, and the fruit are forming, but yeah, every now and then I forget to water it, and the fruit drop off. Strange how that happens. But, yeah.
Have you tried doing any trees in the aquaponics at all?
Yeah, mulberry. The mulberry absolutely flew out of the gate. I just did cuttings. I use my aquaponics for a lot of cuttings, generating cuttings, just to keep them happy. And one took off particularly well, and that's the one that I'm just got in a small little, I guess, 7-gallon root pouch at the moment. Just biding its time to go in over the new chicken pen. So
Cool. So you're growing your fruit trees with your chickens?
yeah, the mulberry will be in there. I don't know if I'm going to have it in the ground yet, or whether I'm going to have it in a. I might. I've got a couple of barrels I've taken the bottom off, and I might use that as a guard and grow it raised out of the ground, but let the roots go down into the ground. Just because I've seen them dig up trees so quickly, they're buggers, and I don't want if I wire it off, then it creates somewhere for rodents to inhabit. So I'd just rather just have it, something easy to manage.
Cool.
Yeah, rodents bring eastern browns. I'm a bit venomous snake phobic. Pythons I'm fine with, but the venomous ones, not real fond of.
You guys have possums and stuff too, eh? Or some other possum-like little creature that comes in and steals your stuff, right?
Yeah, we got nice ones, unlike you guys. Ours are we get the little ringtail possums. They're a little brown variety. So they're pretty much all what have had a bit of a nibble on our mangoes. Oh yeah, we've got a mango tree. Keep forgetting about that one.
Good.
The possums really aren't a huge issue for us. We used to have brush-tail possums, the big ones with a black. They were grey with a black tail tip. Used to get them a fair bit here, but I think the last one was roadkill and ended up in the compost bin out the back here. So I like to recycle everything. But those guys, when they're in, they introduced the brush-tail possums to New Zealand for the fur trade, and they went feral, and they eat birds and eggs and all sorts of stuff over there. But over here, they pretty much will just stick to fruit. So I've been told. So
Mine comes up and eats leftover cat food. We got a big old giant possum.
you got some ugly suckers over there.
I tell you what, but they play. It's funny too. If you run up on them, they play possum. They just lay down, But my one one night my pit bull was walking outside, and he was always real like stuck with me, and all of a sudden he kind of got weird and ran over there and started barking, and there was a possum, and this is the first time I ever heard a possum like actually snarl back. And I,
They'll
you know,
hiss
they'll
real
even
loud.
snarl back.
Yeah,
at
they
you.
hiss. I was fixing to say.
Yeah, it's like between a cat and a dog being nasty as hell. You know, or your old lady. You know, yeah, I said that. Yeah, send all complaints to Steve at hardtimes.com. Okay. So, anyway. Yeah, sorry I had to go on a possum. Yeah, I got a big ass possum.
You know what else is crazy about the possums is they're immune to most snake venoms. They have a gland that makes them immune to a lot of toxins and poisons. That's why they can eat like trash in the city all the time, even stuff that is even a little. They can even tolerate a little bit of antifreeze and stuff that other animals can't. So
They're really
their
smart.
livers are hardcore. Yeah.
Very smart. You got prehensile tail. Amazing animals.
So how we doing in chat? We got any more questions for Rob?
I'd really like you to comment, Rob, about people starting small. About the word you used. You said heroic. Somebody does a heroic setup. I love that. That one's burned into my brain. That you can say that across the board for almost 90% of human endeavors.
It is the testosterone factor.
I like that too. I enjoyed that you said that too. I thought that's what another thing, I try to teach, learn to plant, learn your plants, start a smaller system that you can control. I was off to the side in another part of my office at the time. And I really did like you bringing that up. Thanks, Mr. Green Jeans, for reminding me that's a really good idea to, start with a system you can control.
Well, that's
learn how to run it.
Question. I'd say that next to how many fish can I have in a system, that would be the next most common email I get or PM is my fish are dying. What's wrong? And I've got like a copy and paste now. How many fish? What size tank? What size flow rate is your pump? How big is your biofilter? How big is your grow bed? How big is because 9 times out of 10 they've seen someone say, oh, you can throw 100 fish in. I've said this before, but you can throw 100 fish in an IBC and away you go.
Your knowledge and skills gotta grow before the technology, before the need for the bigger technology. So you have to understand things before you sink the bucks into some kind of technology that you don't understand.
Well, Bianca was getting the shits with me because I was talking about growing with fish for like 2 years, and she said, when are you going to pull the trigger? When are you actually going to do this? It took me 2 years because I had no idea about fish. I still don't know enough, I don't think, about fish. And yeah, she got the shits with me and made me buy a couple of IBCs and forced my hand.
So you're saying you can take 100 small fingerlings and throw them in an IBC, and that's where that's too many.
Oh yeah, no, go for it. I suggest you put a couple of 102-pound fish in there, mate. Start off with that. There you go.
Why? That's a waste of money. It sounds like to me.
It's the quickest way to make fish emulsion that I know.
In case anyone was wondering if that was sarcasm or not.
The other one is, if you got deficiencies, it means you need to feed your fish more. Well, no, it might be a nitrogen toxicity, and or you might have crashed the pH by overfeeding them, and that's your problem.
I don't get that one much.
Or what do you mean you have to add other things other than fish food? That's another good.
But you look at all the videos, and I mean, I'm not guilty of this, but all they say is you need fish food. I think I've been smart enough not to say all you need is just fish food, but look at what I grew just using fish. I just call BS every time. But someone getting into it doesn't realize you need at the base level you need some sort of buffer and you need some sort of iron at a base level. I mean, calcium can't hurt.
And on the amount of fish, I think what I've learned for the last year or so being with the panel is that what people don't understand and I've come to learn is that, and what we were just joking about is that it actually takes a lot less fish than you would think it takes. To be straight honest, for you people that didn't know where the hell we were going with that, but I like Marty goes, well, I got like 12 fish, and he's growing this, it's like, yeah. So I mean, it doesn't, yeah, you do, yeah. I thought I was going to buy this big, we can start this big giant reservoir and get fish, but I want to raise fish too. I want to eat fish, and and then distribute to different systems. So I was thinking about starting a little bigger because I already had a hydroponics farm, so I felt like I could handle I'll just keep building, and I have ability to build new hoop houses and stuff like that to house different grows with, so I thought buying a lot of fish might be prudent, but then that's just a whole lot of fish when you first start out, more fish you can kill. When you're starting out. So then I like the idea of this, well, just go down to the fish store and buy 12 goldfish, and if you really want to start, there you go,
Well, I started mine off on 10 goldfish, and it cycled on 10 goldfish before I just had a basic chop and flip jobby going, and then I popped them, stupid thing, I popped the goldfish into the 1,000-litre tank, into the IBC, then had to try and fish out these bloody small fish. Well, when I put the jade perch in, because I didn't want two species together. But Mum and Dad, they've been running their system without any fish for it's well over 18 months. And Mum just goes out every day and puts a dessert spoon of fish food in, and she's just running straight off that. I must say she's never had a pH issue, and haven't seen any iron deficiencies in the water yet either. But then again, it's not being, if there's whatever iron's in the fish food isn't being taken out by the fish assimilating it. So
it's like
so
green
type of organic hydroponics.
Yeah,
very
yeah, I can agree with that. I agree with that. Or it's like instead of buying organic hydroponic concentrate, you've got it right there, and then you cycle it through your hydroponic system. Although it's an aquaponics based hydroponic system, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's like turning a green crop in on the field. It's like eliminating the animal. Instead of feeding the green crop to the animal and putting the manure on the field, you're just growing the green crop and turning it directly in. That's what she's doing. She's just eliminating the fish.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
No offense to my mum if she watches this, because she does watch my clips, because I'll link this to the channel. But I sort of didn't trust them with fish for a little while there. So it's a bit far to drive. It's a bit far to drive if something goes pear-shaped at 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
Cool, because she made a discovery, though.
Pardon? Sorry?
I said it's cool because she made it a discovery. She discovered that you don't need fish. You can feed it directly.
Well, that's the safest. When people ask about cycling systems, and they're saying, like, I reckon Ponics is great, and one day I'd like to have a proper large Ponics system going. But when people ask for cycling, they're talking about, which clear ammonia do I put in, and do I need goldfish and all the rest of it. Just start off with the fish food, the amount of fish food you're going to feed your fingerlings. It may take a little bit longer for it to break down and release into the water than, putting just straight urine or ammonia in there. But you're going to get into a routine of feeding the fish and checking the system every day, plus putting the measured amount needed in for the bacteria. So that's, whenever someone asks about cycling, that's, pretty much what I recommend to do anyway. I don't know if others do that else. I'm not saying that's the right way or the only way. It's just what I recommend.
No, it is.
Yeah, just get a couple of cases of beer, invite your friends over, and tell them all to use the system. So, ammonium chloride is actually really good too if you're looking for an off the shelf.
Well, that's what the commercial guys use that I've seen. They start up systems straight with that. Plus, then again, they also ship in growing bacteria to help seed as well. So from labs. Do you guys get that a lot over there? I suppose there would be guys growing commercial bacteria for sale, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, we have lots of different companies and all different kinds and combos of bacteria and all different kinds of isolated bacteria for all different kinds of things, for both pest control and for nutrients.
Yeah. I know when I
cannabis
first
industry stuff. Like, I mean, basically what we were talking about before the show, you know, the stuff that's especially made to target for the cannabis industry.
Yeah. Because I know when I first started out, I got suckered in by a well-known aquaponic company here, and I bought a bottle of water that spent 10 days in the post to get here. That was supposedly going to be used to seed my system. So I was told by them, assured by the guy in the shop that I bought it from, that it would work. And then, I just 10 days in the Australian summer in the back of a post truck. Yeah, I don't think there was much bacteria left in there by the time I got it.
No, that water was probably safe to drink at that point.
Yeah, very expensive. $15 for 200 mils, I think it was.
Oh man, when I used to work at Aquaponic Source, we used to have we used to sell little sponges, and we had those in our we had a couple different bigger, healthier display systems, and we had all kinds of wonderful microbes and stuff. We used to sell those live in water, and we used to overnight them to make sure they get there, and that worked really well.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed going to the hydro store was, I started my growing in the cannabis arena. Before that, I had killed cactus, and so I was dependent because when I started, I was back with my back injured, and I was on a lot of opiates, so I couldn't think. So I trusted going to the hydro store. And what I learned after about a year and a half of going to the hydro store, God bless them, they're wonderful people. However, in the cannabis world, it seemed like the only people who were manning the aisles at the hydro store were people who couldn't make it growing. And they would just sell, like you'd ask a question, they'd sell you the next bottle of stuff. You'd ask a question, they'd sell you the next bottle of stuff. And it took me a while because I'm not too quick on the uptake sometimes, but I learned that you had to actually do research, go to ag schools, go to places, like Steve's classes and whatever to learn the real deal rather than somebody who had, 2 grows or 3 grows before it all failed. And then they wound up getting a job at the hydro store.
Well, I don't think people like that get in my area. They don't get jobs at the hydro store because guys that own the hydro stores are growers usually, that want to be able to buy cheap equipment.
Do they have hydro stores in Australia, or are they?
Yeah, that's a good question for Rob.
Do they have like a normal grow store?
You don't.
Oh, your mic's muted there.
That helps.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I used to frequent them years ago myself. Yeah, I started out growing like many people for recreational purposes, right. And then I got into food when I realized I needed to eat as well as moving out of home.
Me too.
But of course, I did inhale, but I don't grow anymore. Any police watching?
Allegedly.
Remember, all sentences with allegedly.
So. Yeah, there's loads of hydro stores, and of course they're going to tell you, there's they're growing tomatoes in every shop and all the rest of it, and there's a love-hate relationship between them and the police, but things are getting a little bit easier now. So
I've run a giant forum, and the members cannot buy off of eBay. eBay Australia will not allow any nutrients or for sure cannabis grow supplies or anything to be sold. So I'm always trying to help guys get stuff.
I'm sure Aqua Gardening have got a hydro.
Well, I need some links. Can you post a couple links of places that I could pass on to my Australian members in our forum that they could get grow supplies?
Oh, there are tons of hydro stores. I don't want to mention. I don't want to plug anyone in particular, but there's links on my videos down below that will take you to a large hydroponic supplier.
Right.
So
fair enough.
They also do ponds and aquaponics as well. So
right. No worries. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. I'll check that out. But I do. They always say, I've got people from Australia all the time. I can't get this. I can't get that. I can't get.
They might be talking about. There might be something specific.
Like grow lamps, for instance.
Oh, grow lamps? No, I've got 2 under the house. I'm a
Yeah,
hoarder.
but can you buy them on eBay though?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, you should be able to. I can't see why not.
I
'Cause you
I
can grow.
I could.
My excuse was I always had a couple of tubes of veggies because I was under the impression that if the police ever raided me, I would say, "But I'm growing food. You cannot
Right.
my ability to grow food," which I learned later was a load of crap, and they could just take it all.
I used to use Dutch leach tray to grow lettuce like that.
But those, yeah, all those lights, all those lights came from stores. There's no issues whatsoever. You can Google, look on eBay. Yeah.
That's weird.
There was another point I think I was trying to make, but I missed it.
I had an Australian grower come to one of my classes last year, actually, and he was telling me that there's parts of Australia where they're putting parts per million testing meters in the sewer systems, and they're using that in order to find people's hydro grows because they're dumping their nutrients down the drain, and then they're ending up having to pay for water to clean up. So that, which is some of the crazier stuff I've heard of for any.
My wife works for the EPA, or a version thereof, and that may be they may have confused that with trying to get the big guys, not little growers, but they're trying to, because I mean the waterways are just being screwed up by people throwing everything in there. So I think that may have been twisted on something along those lines.
Nitrogen and phosphorus.
Or somebody got caught up, was growing in the wrong neighborhood or something.
Oh yeah, there's I don't know, but that just doesn't. I mean, when I was doing it, there was like every helicopter that went overhead was an infrared, like looking for lights, like, you know, paranoia. I don't know why, but yeah, they're not.
I remember those days.
It never happened. I don't think they've, to my knowledge, limited knowledge. There was never anyone caught by an infrared light in a helicopter. So
the alleged
nutrients are no different than multiple vitamins. It's the same contents in multiple vitamins as in plant nutrients. So
yeah, but it's all heavily regulated in island countries because of a runoff and because of microbials. They're mainly looking for microbials.
Oh, microbials, maybe.
That's the biggest thing they're looking for. It's like in Jamaica, you pretty much it's really hard to get stuff registered there unless you know someone.
Well, see, microbials cause shit to grow crazy somewhere else because it washes down into the water basin, and now you got shit going crazy because of the microbials that were washed out of the drain. That's why they're freaking out about that. Yeah,
Yep, because Australia's been so screwed up from all the introduction stuff. So, all right, why don't you tell people how to find you and the content you got coming up? I know we have some links below. I know you have a bunch of different things that you support and ways for you.
Well, I'm pretty much all just trying to cut everything back and just focus on YouTube. Try not to get on Facebook because once you get on there, it's a downward spiral. I've got aquaponically, I'm working on a series because I'm just answering the same questions over and over again. I'm working on a series that I've already done the first one. What is aquaponics? I'm not trying to be a guru or anything like that, just trying to basically explain stuff. And the next in the series is going to be basic aquaponic setups, because that's another question I see a lot. What's the best sort of aquaponic system to build? So I'm just trying to do a whole heap of clips along those lines, just for people first starting out in aquaponics. I'm not trying to tread on Murray Helen's toes or anyone who does courses. Then we're getting into, I'll go to start looking at the plant nutrient side of things a little bit more, but that'll be probably towards the end of the year. Mainly because I need to learn a lot of this stuff again. I did do a course years ago, but I've just forgotten so much. So that's what I'm doing aquaponically wise on the YouTube channel. But other than that, I'm just gonna, pretty much I'll just keep chipping away at that. I don't have any huge plans. We're trying to get the house renovated this year, so at some point I can actually do small workshops here, just for 4 or 5 people, however many the council allow us to park on the property. Cool. And just do aquaponics will be one of the focuses, but mainly just backyard farming, how to grow protein and veggies in your own yard, to try and become more self-reliant and, responsible for your own existence, which is pretty much what I'm trying to be. So, yeah, that's about it.
So you raise
you're
pigs or poultry?
Uh,
You raise hogs or poultry? Is that what you're saying?
no,
Protein?
we've only got a 600-meter block, mate. We've got
Well, you said protein, so I was going, what kind of protein?
fish,
Oh, fish. Okay.
fish, eggs. Yeah, just to give you, some people get confused and think we're on a huge, massive block. Our block is 0.06 of an acre, or where are we? It's 0.16 of an acre, or 7,300 square foot. That's our property size here. So we are on a smallish block.
1.6?
Wow. Yeah. No. Point 0.16. He's on
0.16.
7,000 square feet.
0.16. Okay.
Yeah, we're on a pretty small block. So just to give you some idea for our chickens, by law we can only have 3 chickens on our property.
Oh yeah. That's
yeah.
enough.
So yeah, but we can have quail. We can have as many as we want, but chickens we can only have 3. So little loophole there. But the back, yeah, once we get the house renovated, we're going to do that. And I also want to pull out the gardens and start again. The wicking beds have got roots all through them because of a design fault when I first made them and all the rest of it. So, yeah, hopefully a lot of that will be coming up on the YouTube channel. And the chicken pen is still in pieces in the backyard ready for me to put together. So,
one at a time.
Yeah, they love giving me, over on Patreon, they love, jabbing me in the ribs every time we have a hangout and ask me when the chicken pen's up. So, being built for the last 8 months now, I think.
Yeah, why don't you tell people a little bit about your Patreon? I know you do a lot of content there first.
Yeah, Patreon. Patreon really surprised me how well it's done. I had people ask me if they could help us out by throwing us a couple of bucks here and there. So I started up Patreon after a couple of people hounded me. And I pretty much will like to do unique content just for those folks who actually take the time out of their day to support us with a couple of bucks a month. I was posting a lot of videos there pretty much every day just for the Patreon folks, but I've sort of cut back a little bit. I'm speaking to people through the Hangout, and they suggested that what I'm doing at the moment is a couple of small clips, and then for those guys, releasing them once a week as a vlog. For everyone else on YouTube, they're happy with that. Yeah, but it's just basically somewhere for me to share slightly unique content with other people so they get a bit of value and they feel like I'm not trying to rip them off and cyber beg for their dollars. So I'm not really into that sort of thing. So I don't like doing the hard sell. But if you join today, I'll send you a set of steak knives.
Awesome. I love
You'll do what?
He'll supply
Send you a set of steak knives.
Steak knives.
Is it those big Crocodile Dundee knives that he was shaving with?
The real knife. You mean the real knife?
This is the knife.
This is a knife.
I got a real knife like that. Yeah. Yeah. No, Patreon's great, but I feel a bit bad about it because I know that some people consider it cyber begging and that, so that's why I try and do a couple of different unique clips just for those folks over there. And they always end up telling me that I'm being stupid, but yeah.
Hey, if you're providing they want good information and they pay a couple bucks for it, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, see, that's the other thing. Like when people join up to Patreon, all they got to do, I know I can be a bit slack at times, but the whole idea is they've got my ear. Like the first thing I try to check in the morning is Patreon. If they've got a question, I'll help them out. Give me $1 a month. I don't give a crap. I'm still there to help them. So they've taken their time out to, scratch my back. I'll scratch theirs. So that's one thing that Patreon members get, I suppose, that most people don't get. Because I've got a couple of hundred emails about answering YouTube comments I haven't gotten to yet. So, yeah, it's I suppose they've got my ear. And we do the hangout for the 3rd tier patrons where we hang out for supposed to be once a month, but at the moment it's about 2 to 3 times. Oh, sorry. About every 2nd or 3rd week, we're having a hangout there and we just chat. We can talk anything about politics, gun control, aquaponics, gardening. It's a bit of a mixed bag as whatever goes on there. Not as focused as this hangout, I'll put it that way. So
well, I noticed you said you're staying off Facebook, and I think that's probably a good idea. Because the one thing I've noticed about Facebook, the only thing people don't seem to be concerned about is actually saving face. They will say some dumbass shit, and at least on YouTube you can ignore it.
Well,
Or your Patreon, you're getting somebody there.
the aquaponic forums are just as bad sometimes. Some of the different boards can be pretty ridiculous, but you'll notice the people that scream the loudest on the boards generally don't have a business or anything else to do, which is why they're posting all day. So
I see them all as a tool. I started seeing Facebook as a tool where I could find information for myself and give other people information, but I've noticed it's become a little bit too grubby and political and all the rest of it that I really don't give a rat's about. I've got my own beliefs and all the rest of it, and I'll stick with that, and I'm happy to take other people's opinions and whatnot. But it started, I've seen, to a degree, because these people friend me as well, I've seen it move in, like, from the forums to the Facebook to all the rest, and I think it's just getting ridiculous.
oh yeah.
So, yeah, and the forums are great. There's some real gems. Like, I've got to plug Backyard Aquaponics, because without them I'd still have an octopus out the backyard. I was on another forum and they told me I needed a dedicated hose coming from the fish tank, not even a solids lifting outlet, to run to each bed. And no one ever corrected the guy who told me that as a newbie, but as soon as I mentioned something on Backyard Aquaponics, they all just laughed at me, nicely of course, and suggested I try using a slow and a single outlet and then break off that to every bed. And yeah, so those guys over there, they went out of their way to help us a bit, so I figured, and there's some wombats on there like there is everywhere else, but they generally have a really good content. So
you could possibly pick up some new followers if you came and joined my forum, ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, where Brain Grow and a couple of most of the panelists are members. But you could share some of your aquaponics and your links to your.
I'd love to say yes, but I'm trying to cut it back just to YouTube and Patreon at the moment. I'm stay-at-home dad, and people think I do nothing all day, but I've still got to look after. We don't iron. We don't iron because I don't believe in it. Waste of electricity. But I've still got to do the clothes and the lawn and the food and the vacuuming and the dog and the daughter and all the rest of it. And getting online, like after I look after the questions in the morning, I don't even have enough time to do the aquaponics course I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, no offense. But,
I thought it would pick you up maybe a couple extra customers, because like I said, we've got a lot of people from Australia that are always freaking out about finding stuff. Well, and there you are that know where you can find it,
You got a place to push them. You go over to Rob Bob's channel and check out all the cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm not really.
He's got links to the stores and stuff over there, and
I can maybe do a thing. I might be able to do a thing like that.
Yeah, Roger.
I'm not really into it for the views. Like I've had people tell me I'm trying to get famous and all the rest of it. How long did it take me to get on here, Steve? Like, I'm not really in it for the ego or the notoriety.
I've been trying to get him on for a good year now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a farmer. He's not PewDiePie.
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for the beard to go long enough. I was trying to beat Steve.
Well, I let mine go when I was in Jamaica. It was a lot more impressive before that trip. Well, how it is in the tropics. When a beard's too long, it gets kind of unruly.
Yeah, a little bit naughty.
You just get tired of it. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, we'll let you go, and I really appreciate you having you on, and you're welcome anytime, and thanks a lot.
Not a problem. I think I shall be back.
Awesome.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks for coming, Rob.